Hey guys, Phil Baumhard here. So for today's video, I'll be forging a knife. Not 100% sure what sort of knife I'm going to be making, but I got the itch to do some blacksmithing. Like, I have got to forge something. I've left the camera off quite a few times. You know, I've got all these Knife of the Week videos that you may or may not have seen. Some of them are pretty cool knives, and I kind of wish that I had shown the forging process on them. But, you know, hey, can't film them all. Sometimes I got to do them for me. But today I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. And I'm going to make something. I got this kind of scrap piece of 80 CRV2. This is basically just the end of the bar. So what I got is what I got. Quick measurement on it. Looks like it's just over 10 5/8 inch long. It is a 1.5 inch wide, 3/16 inch thick. So I'm gonna do some sort of full tang knife with this one. So my main goal for this video is to do that kind of bird's head full tang, you know, forged in handle, using the blacksmithing techniques I've been learning from the Jason Knight, Neil Kamikura videos. As far as the blade is concerned, I'm not 100% sure. Probably just some sort of drop point or spear point. I've been looking a lot at some historical knives because I don't want to copy their blade design, as tempting as it is. They make beautiful knives, but I don't want to just copy that for my videos, you know. Been looking at a few different historical types, I guess you could say. So like the Spanish Belduche, the South American Falcon, the large gaucho knife, and then the German-Swiss Bauernwehren from the Middle Ages, or 14th, 16th century. And they're all very similar. They're going to be just, you know, big knife, long blade, full tang handle. The thing that really differentiates them is the sort of type of decoration. And I'm not really going to imitate any of their handle designs. I'm going to do sort of the modern bladesmith handle design, if you will. I'm not comfortable calling this by any sort of historical name. If anything, it's really just going to be just another full tang, sort of large bushcraft knife, if you will. You know, there's it just sort of depends on how you want to look at it. Bottom line is, I'm going to forge a knife, have some fun, bring you guys along for the ride, hopefully enjoy it. So let's get this hot, see what I can make. All right, so first thing I did is I set in a kind of notch with a taper on the corner of the anvil here. This is going to be the very end of the knife, the very pommel. So once I get that set, maybe a little bit deeper, I'll go over to the horn and start shaping the hand curve, the palm swell. There you go. Trying to keep the piece even and flat. I think we're set up pretty good to switch over to the horn. I'm going to start on the narrow part of the horn. Work my way out. I'm going to try to start driving this in a little bit more. Try to bring this point here, curve that up by driving it down. We'll see what happens. I also want to widen out our finger groove here. We're going to leave that alone for now, and let's set in the second part of our handle. We're going to basically do that same thing with that other indent. Probably do it right about there. See what happens. So kind of interesting, using the overhang here, makes it easier not to drive the end of the knife up, which you saw me doing here. I was sitting here. Now this is kind of, very end is kind of coming up, so I can correct that. So the videos I was watching, they usually start here, go to here, and that's what I've done in the past. So starting on this end here is first time doing it. So you know, for me, it's an experiment. It's like, okay, let's see what happens. So I'd like a little more length out of this and this, to be honest. But right now, I think it would work as a handle. You know, it doesn't need to be a super long handle. We'll keep at it. I see if we can drive this very end of the head down. Now I'm going to take my cross peen. I'll try to widen this back out. There's still quite a bit of material here. Trying to keep this on the edge of the anvil so I'm not just smacking the corner with the cross peen there. So we'll go back in, flatten all this out, see what we got. All right, so that gives us our distal taper for the handle as well. That's cool. Still like to get this to curve inward a little bit more. But it's interesting how much protrusion we got now. All right, I think we're in pretty good shape. Looks like it'll fit my hand. Gotta remember not to touch it. All right, so one of my new tools is this Hardy hole tool. Forget the name off the top of my head, but also got this from you know, the Blacksmith Depot. This fits right into the Hardy hole. Actually, I'm gonna keep working the handle on this because this will give me the lift I need so I don't mess up the end of the grip there. But I'm also going to try to use this for putting in the bevels and try not to get so much of a curve out of the blade as I thin out the primary bevels. So we'll see how that works. Set that on there like that. Work on the hands. All right, so I think we're in good shape there. Probably have to switch up to my 1-inch blade tongs, but in any case, we'll have the edge start here. So I can lay it on here and go through, do the edge. But before I do that, I should probably put in the point. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll start by hammering on the spine side. Overhang it on the anvil a little bit. Take that overhang out. All right, I think we're pretty good on the profile here. I don't want to do a buoy shape, so this kind of big curve here for the back of the point I think will work out well. So now we can go in and start laying in our edge bevels. So I'm going to get that hardy block back in. So I'm going back to my Nordic hammer here. It's about the same size as the block here, about 2 inches across. The idea being that the mass underneath the blade isn't bigger than what's hitting it, so we should get a little bit more even spread of material, and it's not going to want to banana out as much. That's the theory. We'll see how it works. Seems to be working pretty good. I do want this point to curve upwards a little bit more, so I might just work it on the regular anvil, see what happens. But what I'd like to do is get maximum width out of this and force this down to about 2 millimeters, so we get the most out of the steel and I get to do minimal grinding. But we'll see what happens. Right now we kind of got a nice Scramasax shape, which is cool. All right, I'm going to switch over to my sledgehammer here. My rounding hammer, I'm calling it. We'll see if we get a little more curve out of the blade that way. Because right now, this is actually doing a good job of not curving the blade up. So far, so good. All right, so we're back to the Nordic hammer. We've got both burners, or 2 burners on. Start working our way down the blade. Check our width here. We're almost there. You can see how much thinner the point is now from the rest of the blade. If I zoom out here, see we're not getting any sort of banana shape. So we're in good shape. So I'm also trying to lay in the kind of a plunge line with the corner of this thing as well. We'll see how well that works out. We're starting to get a little bit of a curve now. See if we can correct that. good up to about here. Belly right here, we still need to get some work. Starting to lose our drop point a little bit. Maybe I'll go back in and try to address that. Alrighty, well here's where we're at. I think we're in good shape. The profile's coming out a little different than what I was hoping for. Pretty good on our thinness here. I don't know, almost. We're barely there, so it's probably like 3 millimeters, which isn't too bad. Got a little bit of a sway back, but it's not terrible. Like if I had just done all that edge hammering on the anvil, this whole thing would be a banana. Well, I think I'm gonna get a little crazy. I'm gonna put a fuller in. We'll see if it kind of takes some of this sway back out. Not really 100% sure. I think a fuller would look good on this knife, but you know, what the hell? We'll give it a shot. Got a little bit of a thick area right there. I guess I'll try to get that out. I think our fuller is good. And we'll just gotta, you know, put in the right maker's mark and straighten it. Yeah, I think I got the edge right where I want it. I think we're in good shape there. Just gotta decide if I like that upsweep like that. Again, that was not what I was intending to do. All right, we're gonna try some schwacking on this bit. The idea is that the wood isn't going to damage the metal. I'm not going to thin out my edge at all. I must have done a little straightening because now we're all over the place edge-wise, but try to straighten that up in place. All right, that's certainly better. Give it another schwack. Yep, there goes the schwacker. All right, not bad. Back to the vise. Okay, so let the blade anneal overnight in some vermiculite. Let's see what we got here. See how it feels. Yeah, I like that. Fits my hand just about perfect. We'll see what happens when I put the actual handle scales on there, if it'll force it force it around in a weird spot, but it feels nice and light. There's our current balance point. Whoop. Current balance point right there. We'll see after we do the grinding and all that. Edge looks straight. Let's look at our current length. Yeah, it looks like 14 and 9/16. So not bad considering we started out at what was it, like 10 and a half, something like that. So I didn't really have I didn't have a super concise battle plan going in making this. But if we look at some of the little doodles and sketches that I did, it actually kind of looks very similar to these two here. So actually fairly happy with the way this came out in comparison to some of the sketches. So that's cool. Didn't exactly have that in mind, but kind of funny how that works out. Let's look at our new employee, Rusty. I think he's going to be the marketing manager. So you hit up the Etsy web store and buy some of my stuff. I'll be able to buy him food and keep the heating bill on for him. That's it. That's it. Good boy. Good job. Good job. Uh-oh, here's our head of security. That's it. Good girl. Good job. You've probably heard her barking on lots of the videos. All right, back to the knife. All right, so we'll get our profile cleaned up a bit here, and we'll see how the new mic does with the grinder going. All right, so I got our big wheel on here, so now we get to clean up this little owie right here. It looks like shit. Alrighty, so here's what our profile is looking like. And earlier I forgot to measure the width, but looks like it's at 1 3/4 inch. So we got a 1/4 inch out of doing all that edge beveling. So that's cool. I'll probably grind the handle area here prior to getting the handle material on there, and then drill out the holes. With the way the fuller is, I'm not sure if I want to grind that out or just leave it as like a just a brute to forge fuller, because it is there, it is noticeable. But yeah, not sure. I'll think about that. I'll smooth up our handles and I'll get back to you. Okay, so we're going to start with our 1/8 pin. And I'm going to try to do 3 of them. See how it goes. See if this is annealed. Perfect. Nothing beats a fresh drill bit. All right, now I got a 5/16 for the lanyard hole. Getting a little squeaky there. Perfect. All right, now for the handle, got some curly maple. There's a big block I cut up into these little handle chunks. I've got the knife clamped up and get these holes drilled. All right, so we got the handle pieces fit onto the knife. So we got it rough rough cut out, so I grind these wood pieces to shape here. Well, I got 2 pins in because these 1/8 pins are pretty tough to get in and out multiple times. So I'm just gonna leave it with 2, just so it holds the handle in place while I'm grinding, just to lock it in. So. All right, well, sort of got away from me. It's coming up quite a bit thinner than I wanted, especially right in here. But I mean, it's still comfy. But I just, you know, when you grind away over half of your existing handle material, it just feels like a waste. So, oh well. I mean, as long as it feels good, that's the main thing. I guess with this little handle, I couldn't have too chunky a grip, so I don't have that problem. So we're going to pop these off. I'm going to pop these handles off, and then we'll clean up this area here. I left those long kind of on purpose. Almost looks like it's supposed to be that way, but I gotta even them up at the very least. But we got a nice big nice big palm swell there. Feels good in a kind of saber grip like this. Maybe I'll put some jimping or something up here, and in a hammer grip, you know, it's just sort of locked into your hand because that's all the space. Your hand basically fills the entire grip. Don't hate it, but it's, you know, just one of those things. Just sort of got away from me, so I'm trying to salvage it. I might just have to start over. I hate when that happens. Ah well. Alrighty, so here's what the knife is looking like. I'm gonna leave the handle as is. This isn't exactly what I had in mind. It came out a little bit thin. You can kind of you can see it right there, especially right in here. It's super thin. Right now, I left it square. Once I glue this on, I'll go in and you know, use the workshop and round all this off, make this all nice and smooth. But with all these pins, if I make it too thin when I go to glue it up, it's a big risk breaking those out because sometimes it takes some effort, some force to get those pins in. So we're gonna call it good on the handle here. So next step is gonna be heat treatment. So go back to the handle for a minute. I think it still feels okay in the hand. It feels good in this kind of what do you call it? Saber grip. So I think your thumb, you know, can ride right here. So I'm gonna put some file work, some kind of jimping, more like the file work of like a ski and do up in here, just to give your thumb some good purchase, improve the function a little bit. You can see I was playing around with the Sharpie as far as grind lines go. I'm gonna have just a large secondary bevel for our cutting edge because we got a nice thin, it's about 2 millimeters, maybe a little thicker than 2 millimeters edge there. And I think I might do a unsharpened false edge right up here. Haven't 100% decided, but overall I dig the profile of the knife. It actually looks very reminiscent of the knife that belonged to Liver Eating Johnson, you know, the mountain man that the movie Jeremiah Johnson was inspired by. But the knife that he's got is like a, you know, it's a drop point, saber ground blade with the antler grips on there. It doesn't have this big curve at the very end, but just the proportions and the look of it, it's very reminiscent. So I thought that was kind of cool. But all right, let's get these. We'll get the handles off, and then I will put that file work in, and then we can heat treat it. So it's just these 2 pins in there. It's a lot easier to get that off. So my goal for this knife is just to make it a very functional, kind of no frills, you know, woods blade. That's something that somebody does buy it. and let's say that they're, stuck in the woods or something like that, what do you want to be able to do with it? Hopefully be able to chop firewood, baton logs to get it dry wood and make kindling. This is your only tool of defense. You got to be able to fight with it. Okay, so we got the knife in the forge. Got my oil preheated. Let's see how it's looking. Yeah, the magnet's not sticking, so that's a good sign. Let's go ahead and send it. And we'll chuck it up in the vise here. Hopefully stay straight. Okay, I think we're good. Give it a sec to cool down, and then we can file check it. Yep, that feels good. Let's check it on here. Yeah, so it definitely bites into the handle. And skates off the edge, so we're good. We'll get this in the oven and get it tempered. Alrighty, so we got our blade quenched, tempered, went over it with the wire wheel, and blued it. So now we're gonna epoxy on the handle slabs. So today I'm gonna be using a new epoxy. This is by System 3. I call this the Blade Pro model of epoxy. They were kind enough to send this to me to try out, so we'll give it a go. They also sent popsicle sticks, mixing sticks. I've got this mixing tablet, which is kind of cool because it's just a bunch of basically pieces of paper. So you mix your epoxy on here, peel that off, throw it out. Been using coffee can lids, cracking the seal. It's definitely definitely a little bit easier, to be honest. I'm surprised just a popsicle stick makes such a big difference, but it does. We've only got our two pins here to start. And once I get this on here, we'll get our other pins in there. All right, there we go. Sweet. And I just got to clean off our excess here with some acetone. Nice. Now we just check this and got 100 more sheets underneath that. That's pretty cool. But thank you System 3 for sending me some epoxy. So an American-made product, which is really the only reason that I went for it. One, that it's useful. I keep getting offers from Chinese companies to review their weed whackers and beauty products. And, you know, one, I'm only really interested in American-made products, but two, only interested in things that are quality products that I can actually use. So this is the first time that a company has reached out to me offering to check out a product that was really something that was, you know, pertinent to the channel. Like, it's obvious when companies are reaching out via social media, and you can tell that they really have no clue what it is that you do. So, all right, here's what the knife is looking like. We got the handle all glued up, so we'll sand off all of our glue, sand down our pins, get a little more contour out of the edges, take off all of the sharp 90-degree corners. So, got my work sharp here. I'm starting off with 100 grit sandpaper. And I'll just work my way down. I guess I should say, I'll just work my way up to 220 grit, 400 grit, and then possibly 1,000. But the goal is just to get out any sort of little grinding marks. And then I'll take a round file and just clean out the inside of the lanyard hole. Alright, so I took that was a 400 grit. I think we're good. So now before I stain the handle, I'm going to re-blue the exposed tang here. And just get a little bit of the cold blue on the end of a Q-tip here. I'll just, best I can, try to only get it on the tang. Because what I found is if you get that stain onto the steel, it'll kind of turn orangey yellow. Just a really ugly color. And if you try to blue it after that, it just doesn't look right. Give this a minute to dry, and then we'll stain it. Alright, so now that our dye is dry, I don't think I showed before, but it's just Fibuling's dark leather dye. Now that it's dry, we'll just go over it with some fine steel wool. This is like quadruple aught. And this will just smooth it all up real nice. Polish up the brass. Because what happens with this sort of dye is it'll raise the grain of a wood a little bit. And then with this steel wool, you're just taking off all that raised grain. And it just makes the wood nice and smooth and gives a real nice luster, like a nice polish. Got a little bit more tiger striping on this side here. Can't really see it in the light. So I think I'm going to put some walnut oil on here, or maybe linseed oil. Hopefully the oil will kind of bring out the tiger striping in it. But before I do that, I'm going to put our edge bevel on here. All right, so here's kind of what I'm thinking for the edge profile. This is just sort of the idea for the unsharpened false edge. I've got a 60 grit belt here on the grinder, and I've got it kind of canted at about 45 degrees. Something I've been doing recently. I find it's a little bit easier way to get a good angle for that secondary edge bevel. So after the 60 grit, we'll take it to a 120 and probably a 300 Trizac belt. Okay, so I'm basically just going until I get a burr all the way down the edge. And so I just check it with my thumbnail, make sure my thumbnail basically gets caught on the edge like that. I usually like to start with the false edges first, because then it meets up here at the apex. It usually looks a little bit better. I forgot to do it on the one side, but you know, I made it work. So I've got the burr on this side here. Do a little bit more on this side, make sure I can push that burr over to this other side, and then I'll switch to a finer grit. Okay, so we got our 300 grit Trizac belt. I'm just going to try to get out all the scratching. Get a nice polish on our edge. Right there, you might be able to see that wire edge. Yeah, there you go. You can see right there my thumbnail. As I push it down the edge, it gets caught. It gets caught on that wire edge. So it's very subtle. You really can't see it. But if you touch the edge, it's going to feel sharp, but that edge is literally hooked over a little bit. So to get it truly sharp, all we really got to do is straighten that out. So all I'm going to try to do now is straighten that out. So I have a ceramic rod here. This is a Lansky ceramic rod. Okay, so I pushed it to the other side. So that's good. And then I've got a strop here. This is a piece of leather that I glued onto just a scrap piece of wood. This is actually a test piece from the Jack Aubrey knife, if you guys saw that video. But anyways, I've got it loaded up with this honing compound. So that's why the leather looks gray like that. So I don't need to do anything more to that. And now we're just going to go against the cutting edge. And this should totally remove any sort of wire edge. I'll also test it on our thumbnail, and it'll hang up. The edge will sort of hang up on the thumbnail if it's sharp. That's sort of that's a nice measure of working sharpness. It's not, you know, a knife or an edge that's not super sharp is still going to hang up on your nail like that. But let's try it out on some paper. A little hang up there. So right in here might need a little more work. Make sure the edge is clean from any of that honing compound. So resist the urge to take your cleaning cloth and rub it on the blade like that. I've cut myself so many times doing that. It's not even funny. All right, let's try this. Try this again. There we go. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. When I'm cutting paper, I like to just physically watch it, and you can feel it, you can hear it, you can see it. Yeah, see right there, it started tearing. Yeah, see, we're still getting a little bit of a hang up there, so we'll go at it again. The paper test or either the arm hair shave is really what people are going to be doing at home if they buy one of your knives. So no reason not to do it here while I still have time to get it right. All right, let's try this. There we go. That's a lot better. Got a bunch of hair there. All right, so now for the final touch on the handle, I've got some brie wax. I'll put that on there. Dab on my fingers. I'll kind of spread it around and then rub it in. So once I rub it into the handle, I'll take a cloth and just sort of burnish it up a little bit. And I'll just burnish it till it gets a very smooth, kind of glassy feel to the wood. I'm sick of cutting paper. Let's go out and do some proper cutting tests with this. There we go. Aha! Ta-da! There we go. Hey, look at that. Alrighty, well here's a little bit closer look at the finished Bigtooth knife as I've decided to dub it. The name sort of dawned on me the day I was doing the cutting tests, really just because I've got a couple of these Bigtooth maple trees in my yard. It's a nice looking tree. It's got a cool looking leaf. I mean, it really just, honestly, just like the way I name all my knives, it just sounds cool. The Bigtooth. But you know, with this kind of drop point, it's not a stretch of the imagination to say it looks like a tooth. All other animals in the wilderness have teeth and claws to survive and defend themselves. Humans have got knives and tools. So I'm calling it the Brute de Forge Bushcraft Bigtooth or something like that. But I think this is a really good looking knife. Like on camera, it just looks, I don't know, to me it looks freaking badass. I don't know, you know, these sort of I guess it's not really hammer marks, it's really just sort of the the forge imperfections. You know, I probably got this a little too hot at times, so maybe that scale that got pounded in there or something. But this is fire scale that that I wasn't able to clean off. It was stuck on there pretty good. I don't know what the deal is. I got to do a little more metallurgical research and figure out how to get that off and prevent that. But in this case, it works. But some of this texturing, this kind of forged texturing, I suppose it is, looks really cool. I'm happy with it. So, you know, I'm happy with the way that the fuller came out. That was just the fuller. I did no grinding cleanup on that. So in addition to log chopping and batoning wood, I also use this to do some fire starting. So I found that the unsharpened false edge worked really good with the ferro rod, and I could just stick that point in the log, pull the ferro rod through that, and that created all the sparks you would want. So that turned out to be a really good system. Afterwards, I decided to try using this as a flint striker. So I had a piece of flint and knocked it on the spine here, just at the point. So I had the point in a log to hold it steady and hit it there, and it worked great. So, you know, the common conception that you want the 90-degree spine if you want to use it for striking a ferro rod. It's like, I guess you don't need the entire spine to be 90 degrees, you know. So I just have this part of the point set up for that, and that works just fine. And I found that I was able to have more control than if I'm trying to use like the middle or something up here, because I'm able to anchor that point into the log and do it that way. So that worked great. And then I also did some test carving with it, just sort of to further explore the durability and strength of the point. And I whittled a little bowl as if I was doing a friction fire, and you know, carving some little notches and feather sticks and stuff like that. And it worked really great for that, which was not a surprise after batoning through that log. I only had like that much stuck out, and I'm wailing on it with that stick, and you know, thing didn't break. But it worked good for carving and whittling. The handle was comfortable for all that. I didn't have a problem at all with the carving and whittling. So I think maybe with the smaller handle, that kind of was a benefit. Maybe a little bit bigger would be better. And so the ones that I sell, I'll make those corrections. But for this, it was fine. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this at all. It did everything I wanted to do, and I'm really happy with it. The knife definitely grew on me. I know I say it a lot that I might hypothesize on keeping a knife, and usually don't, but I think this one I will, especially after beating the crap out of it. But it was a good test of the that Blade Pro epoxy. You know, no problem at all with the handle scales coming loose. Everything's just as tight as it was when I first put it together. So for the sheath, did something a little bit different. I made this sheath even before I decided to keep it, but when I was making it, I was like, well, if this was a knife that I wanted to keep, what is the sheath that I wanted to have for it? So this is it. So did the stamping and the wet molding. Holds the knife nicely. I could probably shake it out, but actually it's holding in there pretty good. That's awesome. But no, holds the knife securely. But this design of the sheath I kind of took from the Gaucho Falcon knives. You know, they would carry those in a sheath stuffed at the small of their back, kind of hanging out on the belt. And then they would also have this kind of, I guess, a sweat guard, or just some sort of guard that makes it easier to resheath the knife when it's behind you like that, so it's easier to not stab yourself in the back with it or cut yourself. But I decided, well, I'll just throw on, I'll just put some belt loops in there, and then I can wear this on my belt like a traditional fixed blade. So what that allows me to do is I can wear it on my belt strong side, and I can pull it out in reverse grip. And that's a nice handy way of having the knife if it's got to be deployed quickly for defensive purposes. And then I sewed on this flap here for that kind of gaucho style carry. Put this design on there, which I think looks pretty nice. Little digression side story. I was watching Black Sails after having done my Black Sails D-guards. I got a hankering to rewatch that show. And there's a leather-bound book, and it had this design on there. And I'm looking at it going, I've got that stamp. This little scroll work stamp. It's just in a circle with the little, with the seed tools around it. So I literally had the exact same stamp that they had, and mimic the pattern, and that thing looks kind of cool. So this sort of big, I guess some people would call it a camp knife or a survival knife. It just sort of got me musing on the philosophy of knives, which I do from time to time. The sort of functionality of a knife like this really ties into why I think we like knives so much, why knives are still important, because they're at the end of the day, they're kind of like a bottom line, last line of defense tool for survival. I mean, because what do we need to survive? We need food, water, shelter. And so, you know, with a large knife like this, it can chop wood, chop branches. You can build a shelter with this knife. You can make fire. I tried out essentially 3 different methods of making fire where the knife is a critical component. I mean, a knife obviously for food preparation and or food harvesting, dispatching game, a knife is paramount because we don't have teeth or claws. We need a tool, i.e. a big tooth. And then also self-defense, with its inspiration from the gaucho facon, which they used fondly for knife fighting. This would definitely get the job done in defensive roles. So with that unsharpened false edge, you get a little bit more refined point. Holding it in a saber grip, the point is in line with my arm and my hand, so I could use it for thrusting. It's got enough mass and heft for slicing and chopping. The curve of the back of the palm swell here locks it in my hand so it doesn't go flying out of my hand. So from chopping that log, that was a heavy impact, a lot of vibration, but it was a little uncomfortable. But the knife didn't go anywhere, so if I was fighting for my life, you know, against a piece of lumber, I don't have to worry about losing a knife. And with the lanyard hole, I can also tie it to my wrist, and it's not going anywhere. So basically, you know, why are big knives important is because if you've got nothing else and all you have is your knife, it still allows you to basically take care of all your survival essentials other than water. So for me at least, that's part of the attraction of the big knives, is just the capabilities that they have. I guess it's a little comfort in the back of my head. Like, well, if all else fails, at least I got this knife. Chances are that day will never come. So overall specs on this knife, it's 14.5 inches long. Blade itself is 10 inches, 4.5 inch long handle. Width ended up being about 1 11/16 inches, so only a little bit bigger than that initial 1.5 inch starting stock. But the weight on this is 12.8 ounces, so under a pound. That's pretty awesome for a 10-inch knife. And with the sheath is 1 pound 3 ounces. So overall, real lightweight package. So something that you know, I was wearing this around the house afterwards. Carried it for a few days, just, you know, while I was doing my thing, and it was comfortable, didn't drag me down, and that's important too. If a tool's too heavy, you're not going to have it when you need it. So alrighty, well, that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you want to get your own Bigtooth knife, message me on the Etsy web store. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram and keep up with my latest and greatest works. As always, I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for the support, and until next time, be more Viking.